6-3.
Gangsters, in my opinion, the state of Texas DPS trooper needs to be terminated. I must say something. I have a son, I have grandsons, I have nephews. I have a community of people who trust me and trusted me when I was a police officer. So I must have my say on in this matter. Now, I typically enjoy listening to Officer Tatum, but I listened to his broadcast on this situation and he's totally off base. One of the things that he's saying is that we're trying to make it into a race issue. I'm not trying to make it into a race issue at all. As a matter of fact, I don't even engage typically in racial type issues. That's the first thing he said. Well, the first thing he actually said was that the officer's emotions, the trooper emotions was high, simply because it was a Texas A&M game and he's a Texas trooper and Texas is about its football and all these different things. I hear him, but I will not accept it. And the reason I will not accept it because, and Tatum, you're an officer. If it ever gets to you, you were an officer just like I was an officer. And we know emotions is what we table, because we know we can cause cause us to lose our own lives, as well as other individuals' lives are lost because of our emotions. We're taught to be professional. That's why we go through the training. That's why we go to a police academy. That's why we go get licensed, because we are taught to behave in a manner that's an echelon higher than the public that we are charged with protecting and serving. So to say that he did what he did by bumping those young football players from South Carolina, to say that he did that because his emotions was high, no, perhaps his emotions were high. Who cares? No one should care. Because if you flipped it, and I'm just going to say this, and I'm talking about with any young person, had it been the other way around, when he bumped into the young men, if they would have pushed him back, then that would have been assault on a peace officer. When he initiated it, he bumped them and he had no cause to make contact with them at all. If he felt that they were in a space that they were not supposed to be, and they were reckless about doing what they did, then all you have to do was go up and speak to him. We are taught as officers that our first use of force is our presence. Our presence should be enough before we even ever get to the point of putting our hands on the individual. So I'm not accepting this. A lot of people think that him being suspended from that game was enough. No, he needs to be terminated. And the reason I say he needs to be terminated is simply because he felt comfortable with bogarting his way into these two young men, specifically the one on the left. Then he pushed and he turned around and pointed to the one on the right. He felt comfortable enough and not controlling his emotions in a stadium full of people in broad daylight. Can you imagine when you meet him on a Texas highway in pitch dark at 2 a.m. in the morning? And then you try to, a young person, maybe he has encountered, because I do not know his history. I cannot wait until they release his name, because I would like to know his history, because I'm sure if he cannot control his emotions in front of a stadium of people, I'm sure he's not controlling his emotions on the Texas highways. So yeah, I do feel like, and moreover, and I'm going to be 100, I'm going to go even farther. As a mother of a son, as a grandmother of 2 grandsons, as an aunt, and then like I said previously, the young people who, and the people in general who have entrusted me with their care, their safety, their protection. Had this been one of these people, specifically one of my own, I would ensure that charges were brought up against him. Now, one of the things I want to do is tell you he did assault them. And it was witnessed by everyone who saw his actions in the stadium. As a matter of fact, it's on camera. Now, let me tell you what the penal code says about assault in the state of Texas. Assault, offensive or provocative contact, class C misdemeanor. Okay, intentionally or knowingly bump, shoulder, or hit. Well, he did hit them. In a way that a reasonable person would find offensive or provocative. I'm reasonable. I found it offensive. Many people found it offensive. That meets the requirements for a Class C misdemeanor assault. Secondly, official oppression. Texas Penal Code 39.03. This was while acting under the color of his authority as a DPS trooper, which he was acting under the color of his authority at that game. He used force or contact he knew was unlawful or clearly outside his duty, and then did intimidate, harass, or mistreat the players. So I say again, I'm not calling this racism, where a lot of people have tried to take this. I don't know who he is, so I can't say how he is. But I can say this, the way I saw him and on the video, what I saw, I wouldn't want my son to meet him on the highway at midnight or 11 p.m. at night. Because again, if he allowed his emotions to take control of him in a stadium with thousands of onlookers in broad daylight, I can only imagine how he acts when he feels like no one is watching. So yeah, I'm extremely irritated. And right now, it's supposed to be under investigation. I hope it's investigated to the fullest. And I'm not one about an individual losing their livelihood, because I know what it takes to go through a police academy. But just like I had to learn a long time ago, sometimes you don't lose a thing, you give it away. And so to me, he gave him his profession, he gave his profession away. And if he happens to not get terminated, if he's behaving in a way, he'll meet exactly who he needs to meet on the road one day. Because karma, and that's what the world typically calls it. I call it vindication, because that comes from God, the divine authority. And I'll say this, and I'm going to close. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to close. Officers, it's a new day. People, the community, they're learning the laws for themselves. Most people have cell phones, and most people know how to professionally record at this point and know it's their right to record. So I'm going to say this, educate yourselves, officers, and do better. If you are a part of the crew and you know who you are, if you're part of the crew who's out here doing the things that you shouldn't be doing, which makes our profession, which I'm a former cop at this point, but which makes the law enforcement profession as a whole, because all it takes is one bad apple to spoil the whole bunch. Your day is coming. Your day of reckoning is actually here because people are not tolerating it. And the thing about it is, people are learning how to handle it professionally. People not fighting in the street with you. They're knowing how to put paper to pen to paper, and they're knowing how to type emails, and they are knowing how to use the different channels to take care of business. So again, I'm going to say, officers, if you're out here doing things that you know you're violating, you need to get it right. I'm gonna leave it with this. Again, I don't wish any ill will on anyone, but if this is who this officer truly is, I pray he's terminated. And with that, I'm signing out. This is Sean Lacey, aka Ms. Officer, signing off.